Hello, and welcome to Greet the Week. This is Mona Duncan, and every week we have a little chat here, looking at how we can live in the now and how that everything that we experience, good, bad, and somewhat indifferent, can also be seen as a learning experience to live life. And I'm going to share the screen because today we are looking at being relatable. And I am a student of Dr. William Glasser, who is very much into relationships. But sometimes we get so involved in relationship that we just look at a few people or one or two people, that being relatable, not only with ourselves, but with others. So just a few thoughts here. One is looking at what does it mean to be relatable? Well, I suggest that being relatable is this driving need inside of us to be understood. And once we're understood, thus we begin to feel that we belong. Being relatable is a psychological, a mental, an emotional, and a spiritual need to fit in. And so from the cradle to the grave, from the time we're here until the time we're gone on planet Earth, it is all about how do we relate with the environment, with people, with incidents, with just, how do we relate? And then kind of explore it together. So it's need versus need. It is relating is about what I need versus what you need versus what someone else needs, what the next door neighbor, what another portion in the world needs. It is about being relatable is to give and to receive for the good of the whole. When your need is being frustrated by another's need and or vice versa, the key is to maintain harmony, is in learning to be responsive rather than to be reactive. But how? How in the world do we learn to be responsive rather than reacting to, rather than giving our insight or our opinion? Well, I love it when people ask that question, how? Not that I have the answer, but through reality therapy and choice theory and biblical principles and life in general, I've got some pretty good answers. Because whenever the question is asked, then it sets you up to maybe have an answer. Although I must admit there are sometimes that people have asked the question, how, and then they go on with their own explanation. But if we are asking for information, then the information that another would give us will not fall on deaf ears. So let's start with looking at the solution before we address the problem. So Dr. Glasser said, one of his quotes is, we control the world for blank by blank. And so I like to ask, how do you see that? What words would you put in there? We control the world for what? Or maybe we should put, we attempt to control, but we're probably not aware of the fact that we're attempting to control the world or another person or the situation or the outcome. So we control the world for those things by what? He says we control the world for need by behavior. Whatever it is we need, what we're in need of, we try to control it by the way we behave. So the conundrum. Started to put the problem, but it's not necessarily a problem. It's a puzzle, it's a mystery, it's a challenge. The content of our thinking produces our receptivity. And looking at how the brain works, how the body works, cells have only two modes of operation, and only one mode operates at a time. Our cells are either or. They are either open for growth and receptivity, or they're closed for defense and protection. So whenever we go into that defense mode, We compromise the optional function of our nervous system, our endocrine system, and our autoimmune system. We begin to compromise them whenever we go on the defense. Not only does defensiveness harm being relatable, defensiveness harms you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And our thoughts produce our emotions. And whenever we listen to what we are thinking, we need to listen. I'm suggesting we need to listen to what we are thinking, because that is what stirs up our emotions. So we need to always be aware of what we're thinking, what our intention is. And when you set the conditions of me against you, me against the world, me against something else, we ironically set the condition for us to be against ourselves. It's called destroying our own house. So what's the key to it? I started to put answer, but I don't have the answer. But what is a key? And sometimes, you can't get into something if you don't have a key to it. So what's the vital part? So I'm suggesting that we start our day by choosing to invest time to set ourselves apart for a great day, for a great rest of the day, rather than just having it be happenstance. That we make time to pray it forward, that we take time to think about it. Because after all, it is our thoughts that produces our emotions. And what kind of emotions do we want to have throughout the day and throughout whomever we come in contact with? Sincere meditation or a quiet time gives you a different nervous system. It calms down our whole nervous system for the whole day. Because the bottom line to everything is life is more about you than it is about them or about others. Now, that may sound extremely selfish, but it really is more about us and how I respond and how I react, how I relate to. It's more than it is about what the other person does. There may be an inkling of truth to thinking that the situation will get better with that other person whenever they change, or whenever the situation in general changes. But it's not an absolute truth. So a person may genuinely be making strides to change, maybe a little inept, maybe a little clumsy at it. But when they are genuinely trying to look at their actions to change, and when we're not being able to see it, maybe it's because we're still looking at them with our angry eyes. And we will fail to appreciate their effort, and we will misjudge. So even if our basic need is being met, we often neglect to notice it. So here's the irony. The irony is that opposites attract. And when we are drawn to someone whose strength complements our weakness, we are also repelled by that same someone when they do not measure up to our expectations. So, what if? What if they never change? Is it a deal breaker? Sometimes it is, especially in cases of abuse. But sometimes it's not a deal breaker, and we need to look inside for our own compassion as to how we can relate in a way that is not off-putting. Sometimes, for the good of the whole, means lowering our expectations. And it's not lowering those expectations is not to throw out a wet blanket on hope, but it's to dampen our unrealistic expectations. So assertive is speaking up, it's making a request without demanding it. And honesty with ourselves promotes personal growth. And so as we can look for opportunities to set positive change in how we relate to others and how we relate with others. So it's kind of like the disgruntled office worker who, after a while of working with her and talking with her, she began to not only appreciate her job, but began to realize that, okay, maybe these coworkers aren't as ornery as I thought they were. She made the comment, she said, these people around here sure have changed. It's amazing how others change. So maybe the golden rule really does work. Respond to others in a respectful manner and give room to grow into by repetition and negotiating for the good of the whole. I'm going to go back. I think I missed something here. We looked at the conundrum. Oh, yeah. Then we looked at the key. So we got it all. Sorry. I want to go to the very end. Hold on. Because I want to give you a quote from Pope John the 23rd. He says, consult not your fears, but your hopes and your dreams. Think not about your frustrations, but about your unfulfilled potential. Concern yourself not with what you tried and failed in, but with what it is that is still possible for you to do. I think that's such good advice, and I want to begin to, as much as possible, incorporate that into my life. And so here, talking about the golden rule, I found this poster and I made a picture of it to put on is that there are 13 different belief systems around the world. And each one of them say in their own vernacular and their own way of looking at it is that treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Is that be nice to them, or you know what, sometimes if you need correcting, then appreciate the fact that someone else is stepping up to correct you. So thanks for being here. And I'm going to close out for today, and many blessings.